Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the desert as Arizona Speedway plays host to the second race of the season for the High Horsepower Racing League. Tonight, drivers get set for the VroomApparel.com 150. This is going to be an interesting one here tonight, as I'm Seth Cole alongside Matthew Rodriguez. And Matt, the big reason is because these drivers are in the Car of Tomorrows from 2009, and before we became on the air, you were telling me these guys, they're going to have their hands full.
Absolutely. The car of tomorrow, or more or less the car of today. That's, I guess it's more or less said. Very hard to drive. Big horsepower. You've got that big block V8 producing the full 900 horses. But we also have the rear end of, I'd say, about a 50s Cadillac. And you've got almost no give back there. It's a solid straight axle.
You throw on top of that the fact that this is the older Phoenix Raceway, and we know that it doesn't matter whether it's the ISM or the Phoenix, it's always going to be abrasive on the tires.
Absolutely, and just even more now where you have to be so much more conservative. Again, you've got all that extra power, and yes, you can do so much of all this power. Just if you have no grip on that rear end, just because you're pushing, trying to get ahead of that guy in front of you, you're going to be on ice skates here before the end of the race.
Off the heels of an exciting one last week at Daytona, John Furness is going to line up on the pole position for today's event alongside of Hunter Gohagen. Row 2 is going to find Jacob Bransky and Christopher Heller, and completing the top 5 is going to be Stephen Black in the 98. 15 drivers scheduled to take the green flag here tonight. What are we thinking? Is it going to be about track position here this evening for these guys, or do you see the possibility of somebody towards the back being able to work their way up through the field since it is 150 laps?
I'm kind of going to play devil's advocate here a little bit and say, listen, this first part of the race is really going to be survival of, we both saw practice, and again, some of these guys, they may be more attuned to high horsepower and low downforce as opposed to some of these guys because they kind of grew up more on the newer Gen Cup cars where it's been a lot more higher downforce, a lot lower of power. So we're going to see possibly some wrecks here early on, but I think once everyone gets into their rhythm, starts really kind of powering through and maybe learning how his car operates, I think it's going to be a battle about midfield. I think someone from maybe about 9th, 10 on back possibly can come out with this win.
Keep an eye on that yellow curbing there on the back straightaway. That's more a guideline for drivers to know where the racing surface ends and the grass in the infield begins, but you will see them try to use that to be able to take the shortest way possible around there, maybe try and pick up a position by the time they fly into turn 3. But here we go. Well, actually, nope. We got the lights still on, so we're going to have another pace lap around here. Mentioned that there were going to be 15 drivers in the field. Looks like 12 of them are going to be taking the green flag. Those that didn't take time, rolling off 10th will be Herman Hart, Eric Schaefer, and Austin Moore will make up row 12. A couple of drivers that did take part in practice but did not sit down a qualifying lap and did not make the grid. Umar Diallo in the 22, Nathan Nicholson in the 9, and the 48 of Andrew Jones. I believe he's actually experiencing some inclement weather in his area right now, which is why he's not rolling off of the grid. So those 3 drivers, so we'll keep you updated if they do get onto the track during the course of this race. But looks like 12 drivers will be getting ready for this race, which will be beginning here in the next couple of corners as the lights are out atop the iRacing pace car this time.
I will tell you, John Furness, one of those guys I'm definitely looking at to possibly kind of blitz this field, but another guy who didn't even qualify, actually I don't even see him on the field here at the moment, was Omar in the 22. He actually did not start, but he had the fastest practice time in the field.
I mentioned that last week these drivers are at Daytona. Furness looking to kind of get his season started. Last week led 22 laps at Daytona, started from the outside of the front row, but brought it home P16. Green flag in the air, and we're racing in the desert.
We just saw how so much difficulty John had just trying to power off of that line, just all that power going through the rear end. That's when we really have to kind of be careful flat-footing it, especially on older tires.
Going to pull ahead, though, with the top position. Single file, top 3, top 4. Then you go back to a battle for 5th. That's where Jamil Hawkins is on the top side. Stephen Black on the bottom. We'll see which line's going to prevail coming out of turn 4. Pretty even there off the corner. Half a car length advantage to Black on the inside at the start-finish line.
Now here comes the really difficult part, as you see Stephen Black really trying to attack that inside lane. The big question is how close can you get to that inside wall without hitting it, and then also making sure that you power back on about midway through the corner so you don't overdrive into the outside wall of 2.
And Eric Schaefer a little bit out of shape there off of turn 2. That's something we're going to be talking about as well, because as the run goes on, the grip in those rear tires is going to go away, and you're going to see a lot of these back ends wanting to step out on corner exit.
Well, here comes another issue is overusing that right front tire. I mean, easily, if you could overheat this right front tire by overdriving into the corner and just relying on it to get you through the corner, here's the thing, maybe 2 laps of doing that, that's all right. That'll set you well. Doing that for about 10, 15 laps, then you possibly risk a blowout, and you may, honestly, not even turn through the corner at that point.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest area you got to worry about of not overheating that right front is down here going into turn 1, because it's a little bit more of an acute angle into that corner. It's more of a sweeping corner through 3 and 4.
Absolutely, and such it's a little bit more of a flat corner. A lot more pressure is put on that right side to make sure you get through that corner. Now, really the big issue is going to be guys who want to drive in there a lot more deep and really don't want to lift, and they don't want to let it roll through the corner. But that's really the key of racing here, is just making sure that you let it roll through the corner, and then about halfway, midway through, then you finally get back on the gas a little bit and power off.
Got a car coming to pit road. That's the Darrell Waltrip throwback car. Eric Schaefer in the 17, and he's in his pit stall. Not certain if he's actually taking service or might actually be parking that machine. He was running up as high as 8th place when I last looked, but he was also one of the drivers that I saw was really struggling on the corner exit, especially off of 2.
I also saw him having a lot of connection issues where, here's the thing, he'd be on the track one moment and gone the next, so that could be another thing. As you see, Lewis Woodall making a charge on the inside of Stephen Black for about, looks like 7th position, or 6th position.
Is one of 2 drivers that's running the throwback to Jeff Gordon's Pepsi Zero Sugar car from 2014. The other one is the 25 of Brandon Barkuski. We'll be definitely trying to keep you guys aware of which one is which. Is really the only way we're able to tell them apart is the number on the side and the roof.
I mean, to be honest, if we want a Pepsi Real Sugar, we always could have ran the Pepsi throwback car from 2007.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's that 09, actually?
You're asking me to go back into a memory bank that is completely cluttered, so I have no idea.
All right, old man.
I'll say one or the other, and I'll be 50% right. I might be 0% right. Maybe you didn't give me either one of the correct years. We'll find out. Anyway, battle for 3rd closing in. Christopher Heller, only about half a car length off the back bumper of Jacob Bransky, and I've been noticing some of these guys migrating up to that middle line, even up maybe to that second group, kind of testing the waters up there, seeing if there's anything to be had.
And you got to think, it's a different concept from when these cars first came out. Dynamic track was never really a thought when these cars got released on the iRace, but they've been migrated over to it. And you got to think, dynamic track really makes you kind of search around for that grip where, listen, the bottom lane may be good for the first few laps, but you will have to start migrating up. But this also could be a kind of a side effect of, hey, I need to arc a little bit higher into the corner to save my right front, to save my tires here.
Gotta be one of my favorite cameras that we saw there on the back straightaway. The camera embedded right there into that yellow rumble strip as we watch them come down the back straightaway. We'll take another look at it here as we continue to watch the battle for 3rd, which actually may be a 3-way battle in a moment. Jamil Hawkins was in that battle with Lewis Woodall for 5th. He has since broken away, and he's starting to close in on these 2.
Absolutely, and I'm kind of noticing he's really trying to pull at least like a little bit of good distance from Woodall, but I'm seeing Heller, and Heller, I think, may catch Bransky here the next few laps.
The front, the top 2, they've actually started to open up some distance. There you see it. It translates to about maybe 6 car lengths, which is about 0.8 of a second right now on our scoring monitor. So it's kind of a mono-e-mono battle between these 2. So if you're the 51 as the race leader, what are you doing right now? Are you in ride mode, or are you trying to make sure you keep that 7 in your rearview mirror? Because both of these drivers look like they're trying to be the first car out there in the clean air, but at the same time, they've got to be trying to preserve that right front tire.
I'm just going to tell you the worst thing that the 51 can really do right now is try and battle the 7. Right now, this is really ride mode. You really need to conserve both the right front tire, but also the rear tires. If you're driving it as early as possible, trying to get the fastest exit out of the corner, you're going to burn up those rear tires trying to get off the corner. And after about 5 laps, you're kind of a sitting duck for both the 7, the 03, the 11. Now, that's really what the 7's going to be doing of Hunter. He's going to be trying to get in the back bumper of that 51, trying to force him to say, hey, look, I'm here. You need to go faster. And he's going to try and force him to burn off those rear tires, possibly burn up the right front. And as soon as he does that, all the 7 have to do is really just drive by him.
Take a look at another factor in today's race. Mentioned, of course, that we're out here on the West Coast in the desert. The track's abrasive. It's also slick. Dealing with 89-degree track temperature right now, 68 degrees out here. So these Phoenix fans enjoying a rather cool day in retrospect to what they're used to. However, the more green flag laps that these guys turn, the more that track temperature is going to go up and the more slicker it's going to get. So you put the combination of worn tires and a slicker racetrack progressing the longer this run goes on. I mean, the job's just going to get more difficult for these guys.
Absolutely. And this is really where patience comes into play that you don't get to see this really nowadays in the new Cup car of, guys just kind of biding their time, waiting for the guy in front of them to possibly make a mistake. Because right now, Hunter Gohagen is really just sitting there seeing if John Furness is honestly going to slip up.
Looking here in terms of lap times as well, and even our race leader, who is still the fastest car on the track, he's been anywhere from a tenth to a tenth and a half faster than the rest of the drivers inside the top 5. You look at his best lap here in the first 15 laps at 28.7. That last time by, he ran a 29 flat. So there's almost a full second and a half fall off right there, and we've just started this thing.
Absolutely, and just still looking around here, seeing multiple drivers. I see both Woodall and Barkleski is kind of...
We're seeing double.
His nose to tail.
It's a battle for the 7th position there between those two. About half a second separation, about 3.5 car lengths. And up ahead of them, you've actually got Jamil Hawkins starting to close off there to Stephen Black for the 6th position.
Just looking at Stephen Black, he's really trying to gain some ground on Jamil Hawkins. And Hawkins, I will say, his last few laps has been a little bit slower, but honestly not dropping off the pace of the leaders.
Battle for the 5th position continues. Oh, we got a car that might have some problems there. He's actually coming to pit road. Lewis Woodall was slow there in 3 and 4. He's going to dive it onto pit lane. Only time will tell if this is a regularly scheduled stop or not. I'm guessing not, as he just pulled into the first pit stall.
If you look at that right rear has a little bit of damage. It looks like he just barely tapped it coming out of 4. I think he was trying to get back on the gas a little bit early, kind of slid it a little bit up the track, tapped the right rear. I guess he felt it was just better to bring it down the pit road to repair it now than stay out.
Now, obviously, as we've mentioned, these cars drive entirely different to a lot of the other cars we've seen in the leagues that we broadcast. I believe this is the first time that we've done a broadcast with the 2009 COT cars. In terms of damage, I mean, how badly does contact like that affect the car for the remainder of the race?
It really affects the aerodynamics and it affects the driving as well. Because you got to wonder, hey, when you hit the wall of any part of his car, you have to run through your mind, what have you possibly damaged? Hit it with the right front? All right, well, I may have knocked the toe out. I may have broken the suspension apart. And that's going to make it drive 10 times more different, maybe even tighter into the corner, looser into the corner. If I damage the rear of the car, all right, it's a spoiler bent. Is that going to affect the aerodynamics? Is that going to affect my downforce coming out of the corner? Typically, if I kind of bend in the spoiler a little bit, I'm going to possibly spin the car coming into the corner and out of the corner just because I don't have the same amount of downforce on that rear end. So just multiple things going through your mind and trying to think like, hey man, what is the least valuable thing on this car that I can hit?
Battle is going to be for the 5th position. That's where Stephen Black, who's been one of the drivers kind of moving up to that higher line, he has reeled in 4 of Jamil Hawkins, and he's going to try that top side, looks like here, into 3 and 4. So he's got a little bit of advantage over the rest of the field who have all kind of migrated down there, kept their left sides close to the yellow line. He's been able to find something up there. And I mean, not only that, but he's going to be putting himself in a position where he's putting more rubber up there. There's going to be more grip for him later on in this race.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what most drivers kind of say it whenever it happens is, listen, if you see him in practice, you'll see maybe 10 of these guys or 5 of these guys running a different line than everyone else. And the reason they're really doing it is they're just trying to put rubber in a different lane. So, hey, late in the race, they've already done the heavy lifting. They've already done most of the work. The rubber's already there. They can take advantage of it. Now, unfortunately, everyone else can take advantage of it too. But here's the thing. If you've been running up there for 30, 40 minutes, you at least have a good idea of what your car can do up there without maybe new tires, or maybe on a little bit worn tires, maybe just a little bit of damage, so on and so forth.
Oh, it's out right there, riding on board with Stephen Black. That's where I think he's gained a lot of his advantage. He's able to get back to the throttle a lot sooner than Jamil Hawkins. He pulled right up to his back bumper off of turn 2. Watch him off of turn 4. See how he closes the gap right there onto the front straightaway. So he's found something, maybe able to diamond the corner there to be able to get that car's nose pointed in more of a straight line direction when getting off of the corner, and that's gaining him all that speed on the straightaway, continuing to hound Jamil Hawkins for the 5th position. Going to look to the top side again, going here to 3.
I'm going to tell you, I don't like this strategy really because, I mean, see how much Stephen Black is really sending it into these corners. And yes, he is pulling almost right up to the bumper on entry, and he is sacrificing exit just a little bit. But looking at it, I mean, how much wear is he throwing on that right front tire? How much heat is he throwing on that right front tire? Here's the thing, he's getting a lot better entry, but that's a lot more kind of force going into that right front.
A little cloud cover here now. I see that the front straightaway at least, and here on the back straightaway, completely covered over. Now, I don't think that that's going to really affect the track in any way, shape, or form in terms of the track temperature, but could help these guys a little bit with visibility in terms of maybe some glare off of one of these corners, and may make it a little bit easier for, in this case, Stephen Black to be able to set up the 4 for a pass. Up at the front, though, continues 0.6 of a second with Furness over O'Hagan, and I have to look in terms of lap times here. I mean, we've got ourselves into a 25-lap green flag run at this point in time. Got to start talking about pit strategy. I mean, if you're the 7, you want to be coming to pit road 2-3 laps sooner than the 51, try and gain that advantage on the fresh tires, I would assume.
Absolutely, but you really got to think, hey, if I undercut them right now, how many laps is going to be before these guys behind me or maybe these guys around me are going to throw on new tires? Because right now it seems like Stephen Black's actually really been able to hang on very well. And actually, I wonder if Jamil may have burnt up his tires a little bit early in the run and kind of now facing the consequences of it.
Jamil Black last week at Daytona finished in the 23rd position. Or sorry, actually make that Stephen Black. I'm getting the two names mixed together. Make that Stephen Black finished in 23rd last week, and Jamil Hawkins ended up faring a lot better, finished in the 12th position. And of course, as well, you know, there's a lot of drivers in this field that had some good runs, including the guy running in the 8th position, the 24 of Austin Moore. I mean, if he can get himself up there, finish inside of the top 5, he was 3rd last week, subsequently 3rd in the point standings coming to this race. He could be heading into Atlanta next week as your points leader.
Yeah, and it looks like Stephen Black may have kind of cost himself a little bit over in turn 3, but it looks like he's going to pull it back here on the straightaway. But this is what I kind of classify as those guys maybe just trying a little bit too hard right now. I mean, just look at how much Stephen is sending it into these corners. And yeah, he's heavy on the brakes, but gotta think again, right front. And just on the exit of the corners, the 4 is partially pulling away just for having the better entry.
Another driver that had a good run at Daytona last week, running back in the 9th position, the 2011 Matt Kenseth throwback there on Herman Hart. He finished 7th last week at Daytona, so 2 drivers that finished up inside of the top 10 that are in the field here tonight, running outside the top 5 currently. And I noticed that that 24 of Austin Moore, he actually, I believe, had gotten up into the wall. Actually, I think the 213 might have as well. You can see they've got some damage there on the right front of their machines, damage on the right rear of the 24 as well. And you got to see right there how those rear tires are starting to wear. The 51 of Furness was slideways off of turn 4 that time.
And you got to think, here's the thing. Even if you do save tires from the beginning, you're going to end up sliding a little bit anyway. That's just the nature of these cars, how much power they have in them, how they're set up. Now, here's the thing. Just look at how many laps it took him before he really started sliding around the car. It took him about 30 laps. Now, go back to Stephen Black and Jamil Hawkins. They have been sliding the car ever since about lap 15, lap 20. That is just the difference between saving tires and using them up.
We talk about all the time. Doesn't matter if it's a mile racetrack, 1.5 mile, 2 mile racetrack. We always talk about the aero push. I mean, do they deal with that here in these COTs? Is that what the 98's experiencing and why it's been so difficult for him to really get around the 4? Because I have to assume that that thing's tightening up on him off corner exit, and he's trying to make sure he doesn't get into the outside wall.
It does affect him just a little bit, not as much as the new cars, but really what's affecting him is just being in that draft, having the air off the front nose, where it's just not getting the grip necessary to really make those kind of darting moves.
I just want to remind you that tonight's race, the Vroom Apparel 150 at Phoenix, brought to you by VroomApparel.com. Be sure to check out their limited edition clothing drop and use the code VROOM25, that's VROOM25 at checkout for 25% off of your order. Currently, we have made our way into the second sixth, if you will, of this race. 33 laps about to be completed here when Furness makes his way back around to the start-finish line. So far, clean and green. 10 drivers still out on the racetrack, all of them currently on the lead lap. However, based off of lap times right now, John Furness may be experiencing for the first time today some potential slower traffic. He's only about maybe a straightaway and half a corner before he catches up to the 10th place Aiden DuPont.
Now, Seb, I really have to ask you here, this is kind of a personal question. I mean, we're really seeing how much the 4 and the 98 are battling. As you see, the 98 is Stephen Black finally getting around the 4 of Jamal Hawkins. Now, here's my big question. If you are obviously suffering on tires a little bit, do you continue the race and possibly sacrifice your strategy to hold a faster driver behind you, possibly rip those tires a little bit more, or do you let him by and see if you can conserve as much tire as possible?
I think you're hurting yourself if you hold them up, because you're trying to match the lap times that they are running. You're kind of out of your comfort zone in a way. You know, I've got very limited experience when it comes to Phoenix, but I know that you have to drive your own race, run your own strategy. You can't force somebody to drive your strategy for you, or else you end up making mistakes. And we're even seeing right there, Stephen Black, now that he's clear of the 4. In all honesty, I think that having the 4 in front of him was a good thing, because it gave him a bit of a guideline of his lift points, his braking points, when to get back to the throttle. You saw right there, as soon as he didn't have somebody to kind of guide him into the corner, he nearly went up into the wall in turn 1.
That's the thing. And you kind of don't expect, I think maybe what's happened to Jamil a little bit is he's experiencing draft for the first time in about 20, 30 laps. So that may be the thing that's kind of getting him here at the moment, because the car does act differently in draft and does act differently on older tires, especially in the draft.
Gap has really opened up. We checked before at the battle for the lead, and it was about half a second. It then opened up to about 7/10 of a second. Now over a full second, and continuing to increase from John Furness back to Hunter Gohagan. Is this the case of the 7 backing off to conserve, or is this the case he used up his stuff too much trying to keep up with the 51 earlier on?
I think he was backing off a little bit, because if you look at Furness, his last lap time was a 29.882, while Gohagan's last lap was a 7.74, now a 7.63. Right now, Gohagan is lapping quicker than John, but just by a little bit.
Great point. I'm also noticing that the 7 swinging it out just a little bit wider there in turns 1 and 2. 51 continuing to try and commit those left sides down to the yellow line, taking the shortest possible way around the racetrack. And that's another thing too, is it depends on your line through the corners on just how much wear you're going to have in the tires. Now, when you do swing out wide on entry, that is definitely going to heat up that right front, but if you keep it way down to the inside on corner exit, that's where the right rear starts to take a lot of wear.
Absolutely, and if you really start wearing those rear tires, you'll notice the cars start to get a lot more loose on corner entry. Not only corner exit, but corner entry is going to be affected, because you're really relying on those right rear and left rear tires a little bit to make sure the car stays stable on entry.
When will these drivers be hitting pit lane? We may be moments away from finding out. John Furness continues to pace the Vroom Apparel 150 Race 2 of the High Horsepower Racing League. We're going to keep it here with FRN side by side, but we're going to step aside for a quick commercial break as we continue to race here at Phoenix International Raceway.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCar. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Team. You can expect high speeds, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine. Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCar. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and Teague. You can expect high speed, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
Traffic ahead of the race leader here at Phoenix as Herman Hart moves up to the outside line, letting John Furness on by. I'll put the 2:13 one lap down as John Furness has led every lap so far here this evening after getting the pole. Hunter Gohagen in second. And Jacob Bransky, we've been watching his lap times here under the commercial break, Matt. He is starting to put together some really fast times and starting to reel that 7 in for second place.
Absolutely. And as long as he keeps it together, right now, Furness actually really got a better gap there, getting past the 2:13 of Herman Hart. But I really think if the 7 really keeps at it, he's going to end up catching him here before the end of the run.
Also during the commercial break, Andrew Jones getting onto the racetrack, and he then pulled off to pit road. He's gotten back on the racetrack again here, though. 43 laps down in the 13th position, but he is going to pick up a couple of spots if he can stay out there for the next 30 laps or so. He would pass Lewis Waddell and Austin Moore, who has actually gone to garage area as well. So total of 3 drivers have DNF from this race up to this point, not even to the halfway point yet, and still trying to figure out when these drivers are going to start coming to pit road, because these Goodyears have got to be screaming by this point.
That's really where it comes into, because some of these guys may be thinking fuel strategy, but here's your big question. How much longer do you really think these tires are going to go, and how much time will you lose by changing them? And how much time do you stand the gang by changing them? Because right now, your best laps is about 28.7s, 28.5s. If they swap the new tires now, they're going to be lapping about 2 seconds quicker each lap.
Really one of those tough decisions you have to make as a driver. Do you want to come down when you're not going to be taking on a full 2 cans of fuel to be able to get that fresh rubber, or are you willing to keep those old tires on to be able to get within your fuel window where you then can come down and actually take on those 2 cans? Really, it all depends on these drivers and the strategy they really had coming into this race, because, you know, right now we've run nearly 50 laps under the green flag. I don't know if any of these drivers had a fuel strategy for a complete 150 green flag lap race, but in those type of fuel strategy races, you kind of work it from back to front, and if that's the case, I mean, I'm certain these guys had a number in their head of when they would want to come to pit road.
I mean, right now, you really have to look at the standings here, and really the only guy in the back of the field, well, really only 2 guys in the back of the field that has kind of had some luck here, had to be the 25 of Brandon Barkuski and also Herman Hart. Surprisingly enough, after he got lapped, they've been really the only 2 guys that have been able to make jumps on positions. But I think maybe from about 6 on back, you really need to start wondering is, hey, if I do a separate pit strategy, is that really going to help me get back maybe in the fighting front, maybe kind of blitz the leaders as you see Jamal Hawkins coming to pit road now.
Riding on board here with Jacob Bransky. As you can see, he has been third the entirety of this race, continuing to try and reel in the 7 car, as you mentioned. Jamil Hawkins giving up a position in the 6th spot to hit pit lane. And we'll see if the fresh rubber is going to help him out. Now, that's another thing that you have to consider when you're making the green flag pit stops, because Phoenix is just a little over a mile in length. You are definitely going to lose at least 1 lap on pit road, potentially 2, depending on how far back you were behind the race leader, John Furness. And there's no guarantee that a caution is not going to come out and trap you that 1 or 2 laps down.
Oh, I'm really wondering why Bransky's coming down here. Bransky just turned really what was the fastest lap on old tires compared to the 2 guys in front of him, and he was catching Gohagen. I'm not exactly sure why he's pitting when really it looked like he had better tires in the front too.
I'm almost wondering if it's almost kind of like road course racing where they tell you you're going to be pitting the next lap. Give me a Q lap right now. It might have been that case where he was just trying to get every last bit out of those tires before he exchanged them here on pit lane. Pulls into the attention of his crew, and right sides will go up, and that's going to draw more drivers to pit road. Here comes Go Hagen in the 7, giving up second place.
Now here really comes the big question about John Furness. Is he really going to come in this lap, or is he going to continue to stay out and hope to stretch his lead with the tires he has?
Right now, that would be second and third that were behind him that came to pit lane, and he had about a second between himself and Go Hagen when the two cars in second and third, Go Hagen and Bransky, hit pit lane. Also see the 00 of Aiden DuPont. He just hit pit lane in that Dodge. And Go Hagen now down and away. Bransky's going to get around him, though. The Bransky, if everything cycles around, Bransky will more than likely at least be up to second place. It all really depends now on the 51 of John Furness, who was rather slow there through 3-0. I thought maybe he might be ducking for pit road, but nope, he's going to stay out a little bit longer.
I'm thinking Furness's kind of idea of staying out here may be shooting him in the foot later on if he's not planning to just take two tires. Because really, as long as he stays out, he's continuing to lose time to Bransky. And Bransky, here's the thing, he is going to be turning, this last lap, he turned a 29, almost 29 flat. He's obviously going to turn about either better or the same time this lap. While right now, Furness is turning about 32, or about 30.32s, I'd say. This lap was a 29.949, so he may be coming in.
Yeah, might have been a money lap there for him, much like we saw happen with Bransky before he came to pit lane. Keep an eye here on the 51. Christopher Heller, Stephen Black, and Brandon Barkuski are the other drivers who are waiting for caution.
Oh,
Yellow
no.
flag is out, I believe. Stephen Black was on pit road. It was either Herman Hart or Aiden DuPont. I'm assuming, I think it might have been the 00 because he's got quite a bit of damage there on the right side of his machine. We'll go back and see. Yep, 00 had just been on pit road. Might have not been used to the grip under those tires, or there may have been the cold tires, the slick tires here. Going into turn 1, that thing just snaps around on him. You see, as soon as the back end kicks out, he's along for the ride.
I'd definitely say it had to be the cold tires. I mean, here's the thing. Yes, the grip is very nice. And you see him go to the corner before then, and he's probably getting used to the grip, how it feels. Went back into turn 1, full power, but just wasn't used to cold tires. Because again, when these cars start out for their pace laps, they have semi-worn tires, and semi kind of hot tires it's not that much of a kind of a adjustment period to learn them. But coming onto these cold tires in the turn 1 at about full race pace, yeah, that's the thing. You got to take a little bit of time before you really go full bore on these things.
Well, we were kind of wondering about the strategy of John Furness. Now he looks like a genius with this caution coming out because he had all but 4 drivers trapped a lap down. Bransky's going to get the lucky dog, and I'm assuming a number of drivers will be potentially taking the wave around here, but those guys are going to have anywhere from 2 to 5 green flag laps on their tires, while the 51, as well as Heller, Barkuski, they're all going to have fresh Goodyears.
I'll tell you, my heart goes out to both Bransky and Go Hagen. I mean, again, they had a really good strategy there, and it really, I think, was working for Bransky. I think he really would have benefited out of all of this, but unfortunately, this is just kind of how the cookie crumbles at the moment.
It looks like Bransky will more than likely be restarting. Well, actually, Bransky being the lucky dog, I think he would start ahead of the wave around, so I think he would still restart this race up in the 5th position. Good calls here, though, by a couple of guys that we really haven't talked about today, but kind of mired back in traffic. The 11 of Christopher Heller and the 25 of Brandon Barkuski. And I have to wonder for these two guys, I mean, were they just being ultra-conservative? Have we yet seen what they're able to bring to the table? Do they have anything for these guys up inside of the top 5?
I think they really do have something, but they really have to kind of control the car. I mean, here's the thing. They've had 60 laps here at the moment to really learn how this car is going to act on both brand new tires and old tires. Now it's really that time that you take what you've learned from that first period, and hey, you've got 90 laps. So you've got 90 laps to really put that plan into motion. And you know what? You're probably going to have one more pit stop in between that 90 laps. So as long as you plan that right and stay clean and really keep consistent lap times, you're golden.
What are you thinking about this strategy? Bransky's the lucky dog driver. He had just been on pit lane, as we saw about 5-6 laps ago. His drivers only have 4 sets of tires available tonight. He came down and put on another set.
I mean, here's the thing. If he's going to be starting in the back anyway, just because of the lucky dog, might as well just put new fresh tires on it. Because again, you're really only hoping to have one more pit stop out of this 90 laps. And I'm going to tell you, some drivers are going to be looking for that middle ground and just say, all right, I'm going to pit in the middle of this. And here's the thing. You need one set of tires there, but you don't need the other 2 sets.
Good point. Ended up having our first race leader hit pit lane on lap 53, and that was Bransky. Saw Gohagen pit the lap after, so we have an idea of, the lower portion of the window. We don't really know just exactly how far these drivers can stretch it, though, because we never got to see when John Furness, Christopher Heller, Barkuski, when they were going to come to pit lane. So at least we have a general number in our head of about 55 laps at least that some of these drivers might like to come down pit road. So I would put them maybe around on their final pit stop if we go into the green again, somewhere around lap 10, lap 115, somewhere in the vicinity of maybe 50 laps to go, maybe even as low as 40 laps remaining in this race.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some guys playing some games of this restart. I've been seeing Gohagen back there along with Bransky, and they almost looked like they were trying to jump the restart, just didn't time it right.
Gonna leave them side by side for second. Barkuski on the inside, Heller on the top side, and then you've got Jamil Hawkins. Actually, correction, that's the 48 of Andrew Jones, who's now worked his way up to 11th place, bypassing a couple of drivers that have gone to the garage area. He's still 43 laps down, but still could finish the evening out with a top 10. He's only about 20 laps away from getting 10th from Austin Moore, who's back behind the wall. And it's going to be, it looks like, a battle between the 25 and the 51 for the race lead. Take a look there at the 0-3, though. Bransky going to work for 3rd place on Christopher Heller. He may take the spot here into turn 1.
This is where it's so delicate because you can tell he's pushing, but you can't push that much. I mean, right now you're really at the edge of the kind of what the car can do. And I mean, I saw the 11 there, and the 11 almost didn't want to give him the position. I'm wondering if it's going to be the same case for the, or my apologies, the 25 here.
That 48 up there, and he was actually very fast in practice as well. You got to wonder if he's going to go up here, maybe try and take a lap away the hard way, put himself at minus 42 around the 51 car. I mean, some leagues like the lap car etiquette of, don't race the leaders hard, but we still got a long ways to go in this one. I think the 51's got enough space that if the 48 wants by, he probably should let him on by. Battle for second, though, behind them.
This is where it goes back to that whole idea where, I mean, listen, if right now they're willing to burn up their stuff, go ahead, let them by, let them burn up their stuff, and go pass them back later. There's no reason to increase your pace, unless he's seeing that 03 coming charging. But there's no real reason to increase your pace, burn off your stuff before you want to.
Bransky got a little bit of help passing Barkuski for the second position, courtesy of the outside wall off of turn 4. 25 with some more right side damage on his Chevrolet. It opens the door for Gohagen to now try and take the 3rd spot. See if he can get that run off of 3. May have been another brush to the wall there of the 25.
I've been looking at Stephen Black, and Stephen's been trying to follow all of these guys through. He just hasn't had the almost raw speed that the 03 of Bransky has. Now, I'm really wondering if Bransky's really trying to hound it at the moment, use up his tires because he's he's going to have to pit and put on brand new ones. And maybe people like Stephen Black are trying to save tires in this run a little bit.
I remember when Black came to pit road, that was when the lead lap cars could pit. When Bransky came to pit road, he was coming down with the lap machine, so he pitted 1 lap later. So that would be 1 lap fresher tires, albeit really neither one of them turned any green flag laps on said Goodyears. So I don't know, would that little bit of an advantage give the 0-3 the extra speed he needs to get up here to the 51, or because basically the tires were both changed under the same caution period, it's kind of a moot point?
I think since both tires are changed under the same caution period, it's a moot point. But you got to remember, the 7 did not have the opportunity to come down and take new tires off of that caution. So that's why the 7's having so much trouble getting through this field. Same thing with Stephen Black. He came in for tires too. Right now, Jacob Bransky really was given that opportunity just because he came down during the caution as the lucky dog. So he was on the lead lap, got the chance to change out the tires, even though he had to start in the back, but he was going to start in the back anyway.
A great point there with those 2 cars. I'm looking at Gohagen and Black With being the wave around cars, they would not be allowed to come down
Andrew
pit lane.
Jones is just not giving up this battle.
I've noticed that. I mean, can you imagine if he was on the lead lap? I mean, he'd be taking it to the 51 for the race lead right now. Both those cars seem pretty equal on speed.
You know, I've been in both positions where right now the leader is probably thinking, what in the world is this lap car doing? And our lap car's like, all right, let's go out and race. Let's do this. I'm 43 laps down. Let's go. And that's where it really comes to time where right now I think Furness would be really smart just to let Andrew by, because right now he's burning up his stuff. He wants to go out and, you know, kind of have fun a little bit. I think he wants his lap back. Might as well just give him lap back because, you know, hey, good chance. If he's slow, I'm going to tell you about 5-10 laps, you'll end up catching him, you'll end up passing him. He'll let you by just because, hey, you're leader. Why?
Go ahead.
Okay. Nah. Rock, paper, scissors. Let's do this.
Okay. But I was going to mention as he lets the 48 on by, I mean, I don't know if it was a case of that Jones was really pressuring him, and that was why he was turning the lap times he was, or just he was trying to keep the 48 in his rearview mirror. But I was noticing that even as those two were battling, Furness was pulling away from Bransky. Now all of a sudden, as he lets the 48 on by, the gap's closed up. It was a second between these top two. It has now been closed down to less than half a second. There you see both of them going into the same corner together. 1.5 groove higher than the other, though, as Bransky's going to try and get the power down, get a nice run here on the front straightaway.
And see, that's what I was really worried about. I was worried that the 48 was really pushing the 51 beyond what he needed and really wanted to push. So, hey, now that the 51's kind of outside of that realm of the 48, I mean, right now he can go back to running his own pace, but at this point, he's burnt up a little bit more of his stuff, and probably the 03 has.
One thing that I noticed is we had about 5-6 drivers during the course of that green flag period come to pit lane for a green flag pit stop. No speeding penalties handed out. One driver that has not yet experienced making a pit stop under green is our race leader, John Furness. So, I mean, where would you rate the difficulty of getting onto pit lane here, getting that thing mowed down when you get to the commitment line?
Really, the big issue is just making sure you don't slide the tires, don't slide the car, and don't hit that nice yellow barrier at the entrance of pit road. Because I'm going to tell you, I've seen a few cars come close to that entering pit road, and it gets a little bit more deadly. Since it's more or less a flat track, it's a lot more easy to enter pit lane here. This is one of the easier pit lane entrances.
This is the second race of 10 on the schedule here for the High Horsepower Racing League. Next week, it doesn't get any easier in terms of track surfaces. We go to one of the oldest track surfaces out there, the D-shaped 1.5 miles of Atlanta Motor Speedway. But, you know, with the somewhat worn track here at Phoenix, does this give these guys at least a little bit of a taste, a little bit of an idea of what the car is going to feel like when we get to Atlanta next week?
You know, honestly, I don't really know if it'd really be that much of an advantage, because here's the thing, you know, this would be a lot more of throttle control, and it teaches you that. But Atlanta is more of a banked track, and yes, it does chew through tires, but with Atlanta being as banked as it is, your biggest challenge is really making sure the back end doesn't step out trying to full throttle it in some of these corners.
Watching that battle for the lead, let's drop back here to third. That's where you can throw a blanket over third, fourth, and fifth. Barkuski trying to hold off Gohagen and Black. All of them right now only separated by half a second.
You gotta remember, Gohagen has probably about 5 lap older tires than these two he's battling around, so you really gotta kind of scratch your head and wonder, I mean, how much do those 5 laps kind of affect these tires? Because again, we saw him second place and really holding his own with Furness. I'm really wondering if that's kind of affecting him.
Remember as well, the 25 was on the lead lap when the caution came out, so he was able to come down pit road. The other two behind him were not. So they are going to be off sequence in terms of the tire rubber they have underneath them, as, little slip up there. Going into turn 1 for Barkuski. Opened the door for Gohagen to take a look, but just didn't look like Gohagen was able to get the power down through the center. And Stephen Black, little loosey-goosey off of 2.
See, that's the problem. Gohagen said, all right, let me go ahead and I'll lift a little bit and give you a second to recover the car. Stephen Black said, no, I'm going in there. But he just couldn't keep the grip coming off the corner.
I remember when I mentioned earlier when Black was trying to get around Jamil Hawkins at the time, where he was kind of using the 4 as a measuring stick of his braking points, and while that's a good thing, the other problem would be in the car behind is you are tempted to get back to the throttle maybe sooner than you should, and that might have been what we saw there out of the 98, wanting to get the power down, the rear tires just wouldn't take.
Man, you see how much Gohagen really pulls up to the back of Barkuski. I mean, you really see him kind of pull almost the entire back straightaway. He loses it on exit, though. He does not seem that stable on exit, but on entry, man, he can drive so far down in.
And obviously, we don't know if it's necessarily going to happen, but we have seen it happen in the past here at Phoenix. If you're within striking distance and a race wins on the line, drivers might be tempted to use the chrome horn, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, especially here through 3 and 4. The flatter, more sweeping corner, a driver can carry a lot more speed and actually be able to hold on to it. Not much has changed up at the front, still 0.6 of a second from Furness back to Bransky. However, the both of them are running slightly similar lap times, slight advantage to the 0-3.
I think what's really helping the 51 here at the moment is having that 48 in front of him, which is funny enough to say, but it actually may be making his car handle a little bit better, kind of sliding a little bit more through the corner. But I'm seeing how Furness really enters some of these corners. I don't like how he's all the way down to that yellow line at the moment. That's really going to be burning up these left and right side tires.
Like another driver has gone to the garage area, Herman Hart in the 213. Know that he's gotten up into the wall a couple of times in this race, has been dealing with that right side damage. He pulled to the garage area about 19 laps ago, and he is going to be finishing, it looks like, dependent on that 48 of Andrew Jones, either in the 9th or 10th position. That was a guy that was going to more than likely be up inside the top 5 in the point standings had he finished out this race going into Atlanta after coming off of that top 10 run, 7th place last week at Daytona. So now, if I'm looking at some drivers to maybe look at to be battling for the points lead when we go to next week, you've obviously got the 25 up here of Markuski. He was 11th last week at Daytona. You've got Jamil Hawkins as well, who was 12th last week. He's currently running in 7th. So those might be the 2 guys to watch right now. But then again, when it's early on in the season, even guys that struggled last week at Daytona, like Bransky running in 2nd, like our race leader, John Furness, if you get a win this early on when everybody's all bunched together, you can gain double-digit spots in the points. So it's not out of the realm of possibility mathematically for one of these 2 drivers to be the points leader heading into next week.
Absolutely, and I'm really stuck in that battle for 3rd, and I'm seeing both the 7 and the 98 behind, and I'm going to tell you, this is kind of a driver's, kind of greatest joy of like, man, this is a really close battle, and it's really a battle between 3 really good drivers. But it also is a pain because, you can see the spot in front of you. You can see and say, man, if I can just get my car to stick just a little bit, I can power off this corner and blow by both of these guys. And of course, you get into the corner, you finally get back on the gas, and it's a struggle of just making sure, how much gas can I really put into this car to make it turn off the corner and not wreck itself.
The big thing is, too, especially at a track like Phoenix, everybody likes to go right up against that outside wall on the entry to the corner. It doesn't matter if you're going to take the top side, or the middle groove in this case, or if you're going to take the bottom of the racetrack. And that really hurts the driver that wants to take that outside line because you don't know where the braking point of the car in front of you is going to be. You want to send it into that corner, up into that 2nd groove, but the last thing you want to do is run to the back of the car in front of you. So it kind of throws off your timing if you're trying to set somebody up for a pass, trying to go in the groove that they're not in.
Now I'm telling you, right now they do have the option of obviously putting the bumper to the car in front of them. Right now with the old COT cars, all the bumpers line up. It's really easy to just kind of bop someone in the back a little bit and knock them up the hill. But right now there's really no need for it. It's 80 laps in the race, you still got a good half of the race left. If you see Steven Black kind of trying to send it on the outside, and we saw this a lot when he was racing Jamil Hawkins. He was really trying to send it on the outside, but he almost cut back to the inside on the back straightaway.
Talk about it being too early to put the bumper to somebody. I don't remember who it was that coined the phrase, but it was, if you're going to move them out of the way, do it at a time where they don't have enough time to be able to get back to your bumper and pay the favor. And so with 65 laps to go, yeah, don't think you necessarily want to ruffle somebody's feathers because plenty of time for them to be able to kind of come back and say, hey, all's fair in love and war.
My general idea, here's the thing. If I'm riding this back bumper, that means they're pretty close on speed. But here's the thing, before I need to think about hitting him, I gotta ask myself the big question. If I hit him, on a scale of 1 to 10, how angry is he gonna be? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how far do I think I can get away from him before he can get back to me?
Well, not only that, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how sure are you that you're going to just have him be the one that gets wrecked? You may end up taking yourself out in the process as well. And as we've seen, a lot of drivers have had to deal with right side damage getting into the wall, especially off of turn 4, have already taken it to the garage area. There's no fast repair to fall back on for these guys. So the last thing you want to do is have that mistake be your last mistake of the day.
Man, you just got to look at these 3 cars. That's just kind of an abundance of skill here. Or really, my apologies, like kind of a wealth of skill here. Look at all these drivers. They're all running different lines, and they're all fighting their own little battles. Here's the thing. You can obviously tell the 7 has, it looks like the Hunter Gohagan may have gotten a little bit of the outside wall.
I think he did. I think you're right. Might have just barely brushed it and drove it a little too deep there into turn 1. Stephen Black's going to take advantage. Oh, got smoke up ahead of these guys. That Aiden DuPont, yes, he's had some trouble off of turn 2. No caution as he keeps it pointing in the right direction, but I think he may have slapped the wall pretty good there off the second corner, right ahead of this battle for third.
Actually, he almost may have wrecked it coming out of 2. It looks like he just overcorrected a little bit. Car started sliding out from under him. Corrected, slammed the wall, almost flipped over. Went all the way to the inside grass and pulled right back up on track.
Is there a panel on that car that he hasn't dented? There is contact to the right rear, right front, left front. I mean, he's got damage on the right and left side of that machine. That car is crunched. It's still under power, though, and still in the 7th position.
I mean, in Aiden DuPont's defense, I mean, I've got to be perfectly honest. I've never liked Phoenix in the COT car. I mean, really just these things never handled, but at least the left rear still looks good.
Yeah, I just noticed. Yeah, that's the one part of the car that still looks pretty pristine. The front end of the car still looks pretty good there as well with that Charger grille. As
But man,
he's now going to have third place battle right behind him. Where does he go?
yeah, I'm looking at that, and you got to wonder here. Obviously, I'm thinking Stephen Black's really going to like that because, hey, it held up to 25 just a little bit. But the only problem is he took away his line.
Going to clear Aiden DuPont, though. And now set his sights back on the 25. Looks like the 7 will go Hagen after he got into the wall. That either, I don't know if it hurt the handling or if it just hurt his momentum, but he is now drifted back away from that battle for third place, currently in that 5th position and going to go to work to the inside of Aiden DuPont. Stephen Black, we saw him early. Move up to that second groove, try and get that momentum, and he was making it work. Looks like he's trying it again there to close up to the back bumper of the 25.
DuPont in the back, he goes around.
And the caution is out.
Ooh, I was almost about to bring up the kind of a bit about suspensions, but looks like he just kind of sent it a little bit too much, being on the outside of that 7. Just slammed the wall, but I'm going to tell you, this is really what that 3 kind of group wanted, both Stephen Black, Hunter Gohagan, and Brandon Barkuski, because, I mean, they really need new tires here at the moment, and that's going to put both Jacob Bransky and John Furnaz in a kind of a little bit of a bind here, because right now, Bransky is at the biggest deficit of tires out of all of them.
Don't adjust your sets, everybody. They did not invert the way that they run Phoenix. The
And
double
DuPont
zero
is-
is just...
Yeah, DuPont is just cruising in reverse.
Mater would be proud.
Days of Thunder, the gears are knocked out.
And is he going to bring that all the way back to pit road like that? That is amazing. That's the clip of the race right there. Even going to make the commitment line. Look at that.
I think he was trying to make a statement of, I know how to handle this car, just it's too damaged.
Let's
Trust me,
go
we
back
believe
and
you.
see what happened to him off of turn 4. And as you mentioned, I mean, he was right around Gohagan at the time. He was just trying to stay up there on the top side, and unfortunately, especially at a track like this, that outside wall comes and gets you. It doesn't jut out, but it certainly, with the car getting tight off the corner, it comes out and slaps you pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and again, it's just kind of one of those things where you could swear the wall kind of reached out and grabbed you.
Aiden DuPont would have been in line, I do believe, for the lucky dog had he not been the driver to bring out the caution. Everybody else was on the lead lap at the time.
I believe it should go to Jamel Hopkins because he would be the next viable candidate, but I don't see him on track currently.
I'd see him in the garage area right now, it looks like, at least on my telemetry, and Herman Hart in the 213, who I had previously reported out of the race, he's actually gotten back onto the racetrack.
To be honest, Herman Hart would be the next eligible candidate for Lucky Dog, but I'm not sure if he's going to get it.
We'll keep you updated on that, as we had 6 drivers on the lead lap when that caution came out. Everybody was on pit road, no surprise there, as they'll be setting up for a restart with less than 55 laps to go here. Furness, the race leader. Bransky in second. Barkuski did a great job of keeping Stephen Black in his rearview mirror. He's going to be third with Black in fourth. Gohagan probably very happy, along with Black, to be able to come down and get the fresh rubber, as they were at a bit of a disadvantage tire-wise, having to take the wave around under the first caution. And Christopher Heller, still on the lead lap, will be restarting in the 6th position. But 2 cautions so far here in these first 95 laps. I mean, if you're a driver right now, what are you thinking? Are you thinking green flag to the end? Was that the last pit stop these drivers are going to be making? Or are you possibly thinking about maybe some pit strategy here with a late race caution?
I think there may be another caution because right now I know it's kind of a funny thing to kind of point out, but if you look at the right front of Barkuski, he has gotten that car repaired, which is really great for him. Obviously, that car's going to handle a little bit better for him, but here's the problem. We saw how the car handled for him, perfectly put together, and I was going to bring that up, but some of these drivers sometimes like the right front to be a little bit damaged because, again, that suspension being a little bit maybe tighter does help the car go around. I wonder if he's going to notice a little bit of different handling in that car. Same thing with kind of the battle between first. We got to look at Furnaz here. Furnaz, again, he's been leading a good part of this race, but we saw the 03 of Bransky on that last restart, and man came from pretty much dead last in this current field all the way up to second. And, you know, hey, even after doing that, he was right on your bumper, still kind of hanging with you. Again, right now we've got about 50 laps to the finish. We can go caution-free to the finish, but are you going to show your cards early and race him, or are you going to wait till later and try to make your way back by him?
And that was the question I was actually just going to ask you there about Bransky. Do you put the pressure on the 51 car right now, possibly expecting another caution to come out soon and then be the one in control of the restarts, or do you wait, hope that the 51 starts to burn up his stuff and take advantage in the closing stage of the race? Only Bransky's got the answer to that one, as he'll be on the outside of Furness, who has led every lap so far here today from the pole, trying to go coast to coast at Phoenix. He's going to lead us back to our second restart of the day here at the desert.
Oh, and Bransky got a terrible restart. That's really good for Barkuski on the inside, as you see Bransky fighting back on the outside.
Also had a rear decklet full of Gohagen there into turn one, did Barkuski, but they all keep together. Look at Bransky, though. Down the back straightaway, edges ahead into turn three. Will he send it into the final two corners? Inside line advantage there for Furness. Let's see what they're going to be like coming off of turn four. Outside line with momentum again.
And he managed to complete the pass on the outside. You've got John Furness now kind of in a different position. He's going to be continuing to fight on the outs or inside. But if you look back in the field, we've got Stephen Black, Gohagen, and Heller really kind of duking it out here at the moment, as well as the 48 of Andrew Jones, now 42 laps down.
Now Bransky's going to clear for the top position, and we can't really say that this is the first time that Furness has had somebody to battle here today. Oh, little contact there maybe between himself and the 25. Little chrome horn there in the middle of 3 and 4. That's the battle for second.
Again, a lot of these guys are trying to fight for everything they can, and you got to remember, on that long run, you don't really get a lot of opportunities right now on their restarts. That's where you can make a majority of your moves and kind of getting a lot of positions in a short amount of time. That's exactly what Barkuski has done, and he's trying to take advantage of that to be number two.
Way up the track there for Furness. That's the highest I've seen him run through 3 and 4 all day long, as he's been a bottom feeder in those two couple of corners for most of this race. He's going to pull ahead of Gohagen, hold on to the third position, but first time that he finds himself outside of the race lead, back to the third position. Still got 50 laps to work with, though, to try and get back up to the front as Jacob Bransky tries to set sail in the race lead.
Now it's really kind of a role reversal here. I mean, seeing Bransky in the lead and Furness being the one kind of trying to chase him down. Now here's where John may kind of run into a few issues. I've noticed he's still kind of running the lines that he had when he's been really up front by himself, and I don't think they're working like he expects them to, just because clean air is just a whole different thing.
Last week at Daytona, he led the second most laps, 22 in total, second only to the eventual winner, Sean Butler, but the result did not show the performance, finishing in the 16th position. Here today, led the first 95 laps of this race, and may not be taking the checkered flag here, but I'll tell you what, Barkuski, he's not afraid to use that front bumper. That time there out of turn 4, he got into the back of Bransky. He wants the top position.
Maybe I didn't give Barkuski enough credit. I mean, I thought after he got that right front damage fixed, or at least fixed as possible, I figured he's going to be a little bit slower, but no, he's really taken it and ran.
Again, we kind of wondered about some of those guys that were running back in the latter half of the top 5 or the beginning half of the top 10, and we were wondering, are they kind of playing their cards close to the chest, not really showing what they've got? I think that might be the case here for the 25. Now, granted, he gained a lot of this track position with staying out when the first caution flew, but he's done a great job of maintaining that track position and now has a shot of winning this race.
That's just a big change. I mean, look at the top two. These top two have had really the up and down race of the pretty much day. But you got to remember, Bransky did start a little bit farther back, not that far. I mean, really, he started third place, but, hey, he's been kind of riding third place the entire first run, ended up pitting the undercut. took second place, had a caution come out, lap down, forced to the back of the field, had to race his way all the way back up. And Barkuski, I mean, I don't think we can kind of say this enough. I mean, he started in the back, ninth place, had to race his way up, got some damage every now and then, got that caution, got a second run where he couldn't pit, got another caution. Look at this, damage repaired, back up in second.
Saw John Furness try and put a move on Barkuski the last lap over into turn 1. Tried to drive it in deep, had to really lift, and that drops him back into the clutches of Gohagan. And one guy who is just sending it into the corners, that's the lap car of Andrew Jones. Saw him actually pull a slide job on Stephen Black a couple of laps ago, so he's obviously not in tire save mode, as he's about now 23 laps away, I do believe, from moving up to the 9th position, going past Jamil Hawkins, who is currently out of this race. And it looks like also Aiden DuPont in the 00 has taken his car to the garage area. Oh, you saw the 48. The transition there of the apron off of turn 4 onto the racing surface. The front end of the car kind of jumped in the air for a brief moment.
I will admit, I don't actually really understand why Andrew Jones is pushing that hard with being a lap car. I mean, we see both the 98 and the 7, two really fast cars. They really got held up there. And that really makes it a kind of a 3-horse race up here for 51, 25, and 03.
Wow, take a look here behind him as well. Almost 3 wide with Black, Heller, and Gohagan. Don't know what happened really with Gohagan through 3 and 4, but he lost a ton of ground and will fall from 4th place all the way back to 6th. As they were 3 abreast in the center of 3 and 4, settled it out to double wide, and that 7 car all of a sudden drifting back, and the last car in this formation.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that really thrived on the clean air, and now that he's back in traffic, just has not made that transition over to kind of how you race in traffic.
We saw the 25 get really loose there off of turn 4. Barkuski now falling into the clutches of John Furness. And I think a big reason why he got loose, I noticed that his left sides got down below the yellow line onto the apron. Now, I would assume with these COT cars, as opposed to the cars they run today, we see them run down on the apron there in the current cars. I don't necessarily think that there's a lot of grip to be had there, getting your left sides down on the apron here at Phoenix with these COTs.
Absolutely, there's really no grip in these cars. Again, you kind of slinging in the corner, you have to be ready on both the gas and the brake to make sure this thing isn't going to spin around on you. Now, that's really the thing, and it shows a lot of skills in these drivers, just controlling these cars. I mean, you see how much they slide coming off this corner.
Barkuski's got his hands full now. He has been loose in the last couple of corners, drops himself back into a battle. Well, it's actually not even a battle. That's the lap car of Andrew Jones. Then you've got the next position car of Stephen Black in the 4th position. 51's gotten himself cleared, though. Only 1 car to beat, and that's Jacob Bransky. Now, remember, these two on the two long green flag runs, they were running pretty even lap times. We're going to have to compare here now with the 03 out in front and the 51 in second. Can Furness put together laps that will get him back to the bumper of the race leader?
I'm telling you, I'm watching this 25. I think this 25 burnt off his tires. I mean, he just looks so loose out of every corner. He's burnt off the rears, and I'm thinking he burnt off the right front as well.
There's a lot of tracks where you can end up really heating up the tires, then you can back off, cool them down, and be perfectly fine. Phoenix is not really one of those tracks. The low banking you've got here, those tires deal with pressure every corner you take. Little contact there between him and Jones. Black trying to jump to the top tight to take advantage. Look at the 11 of Christopher Heller. He tried to send it into 3, and near contact again between the 25 and the 48.
There was contact between the 25 and the 48, and that was really just the 25 showing his displeasure a little bit.
Oh boy, more contact.
Yeah, I think the 25 just a little bit unhappy of just being raced that hard by a lap car.
Still stay side by side off of turn 2. Bear in mind, the old adage, short tracks breed short tempers. Phoenix does actually fall under the moniker of a short track. That's why we end up having those.
He hit him again.
Earlier on this race. Look at this. My goodness. And if you're someone like Heller or Black or Gohagan back here, I mean, you've got to be thinking, you know, if these two get together, where's my exit route?
I mean, to be honest, Jones is, again, just kind of, I don't understand why he's racing that hard, especially with the laps winding down. But, you know, I kind of understand both Brandon's frustration as well as, I know Heller and Black had a little bit of comments about it earlier. They're not happy, but, I mean, it seems like Barkuski's kind of taking this personal, like, man.
Right now, the only car that Andrew Jones has to beat is a car that's in the garage area, and that's Jamil Hawkins. He doesn't have to be racing this aggressively with these guys up here that are trying to settle it out for positions 3rd through 6th. Now he clears all of them, and we got them all nose to tail with Barkuski, Heller, Black, and Gohagen. We'll see if the 48 exits this group, if we'll actually now start to figure out who's got the better car. But I have to wonder, even that little bit of contact we saw exchanged 2, 3, 4 different times there between the 48 and the 25. We already know that Barkuski had his hands full. How much more is that going to affect the handling of that car as he falls back now into the clutches of Heller for 3rd place?
I mean, just look at the front of the car. Look at the splitter on the bottom. The splitter is all bowed up. That's pretty much acting like a huge kind of parachute at the moment, and that's slowing him down. That's affecting the car's entry in the corners and how it handles. Not to mention, he possibly may have knocked in the radiator.
Keep an eye on him. Still keeping enough pace to have the 11 in his rearview mirror and actually starting to close back up there to the 48. So
I'm going to tell you, if he gets back up to the 48, I expect him to hit him again.
We may be having that caution you were talking about before this race was over. As we did have a spot picked up on track moments ago, Herman Hart bypassing Aiden DuPont for the 7th position with DuPont out of the race. So Herman Hart right now looking for back-to-back at least 7th place finishes here to start out the season.
Yeah, and as it stands currently, it looks like Andrew Jones probably will end up finishing around 9th or 8th place, possibly.
He will, in 11 laps, pass Hawkins for 9th place, and if he can turn 26 more laps, 27 more laps actually, he would move up to 8th, passing Aiden DuPont. With 33 laps left, he would have enough time to be able to do so. Top side there, middle groove, Bransky right down to the bottom for Furness. The battle between the two right now is about 0.6 of a second, and that last time by, actually the last 3 laps, it has been the 51 faster on the racetrack than the 03. You can visibly see the gap is closing.
Now here comes the big question. A, how much is draft helping the 51? B, I mean, how much is the 03 saving? And then also C, I mean, how much are these two wearing these tires?
Getting to him is one thing, passing him is another, and yeah, to your point, how much is he using up? How much will he have left if Furness is able to get to the back bumper of Bransky? But look at him, send it into turn 1. My goodness, he just closed up 4 car lengths right there.
That's the thing. That's kind of the aggressive moves that he's feeling that he has to do here at the moment just to get up there. Now, of course, prolonged use of that's going to end up burning up that right front. So he's going to be trying to make this quick and try to get him out of the way as quick as possible so he can keep on driving.
You saw him drift it there into turn 3. The back end was yawed out all kinds as he tried to close back up again. Maybe even try to make a pass to the inside. Let's see what he does here into turn 1. You can see that the 03, he's changed his line. He was running the middle groove, but as soon as the 51 closed the gap, he's now pinned it right down to the bottom, going to force Furness to go around the outside, the long ways around, if he's going to take the race lead.
Oh, and Bransky just blinked out for a minute, and I was like, oh no, not like this, not like this. But man, they are holding it pretty much almost bumper to bumper in all these corners. Right now, Bransky is having trouble entering the corners, but getting a really good exit off.
On the flip side, we're seeing the 51 drive it really deep into the corner, close up the gap, and then lose a little bit from the center off. So kind of a 50-50 here in terms of the advantage for both of these drivers in each respective corner. Again, driving it deep into the 3rd corner is going to be Furness, pulls right up to the back bumper, but you'll notice the gap's going to open up to a car length and a half. 2 car lengths to the start-finish line, advantage to the 03.
So here's the big question. How much longer is the 51 really going to try and push this attack? Or is he trying to push Bransky into either A, making a mistake, or B, really trying to burn off his tires where right now he's possibly waiting for Bransky to see if he's going to push hard enough where he will end up burning off those rear tires and have an opportunity like this almost on the inside.
Now we got 30 laps to go, 28 in total right now. Is the 51 thinking, I've got to get up there to the front to this race lead in case the late race caution comes out? Or is he expecting this thing to go green to the end and he's saying, this is my best advantage right now where my tires are the freshest they're going to be between now and the checkered flag?
Absolutely. I'm debatable. I'm kind of debating on that one. I don't exactly know.
3rd place under contest as we drop back to Christopher Heller and Stephen Black. You're wondering where the 25 of Barkuski is. He has drifted all the way back to 6th. So obviously that car has been ill handling. The contact exchange between him and the lap machine of Andrew Jones has now kind of come home to roost. It has really affected him in terms of speed. He's lost positions to Heller, Black, and Gohagan. Gohagan actually in a bit of a dogfight with the lap car of Andrew Jones right now, who gets out of shape right in front of him there off of turn 2.
Aye. And again, I still think some of these guys in the back of the field probably have a little bit of strong feelings about Jones there.
Not be surprised. Jones, as we mentioned, the best he can finish here today would be 8th place, finished 21st last week at Daytona, and continues to battle hard here with Gohagan. And not for position, Gohagan's in 5th, and the 48 is 42 laps down after missing the start of this race after some inclement weather in his area. Getting onto the racetrack, though, taking advantage of spots available to him, but as you mentioned there, Matt, not quite endearing himself to the rest of the field. 3rd place under contest, Stephen Black crosses the inside of Heller, coming to the start-finish line. Heller will hold the spot by a splitter for the moment, then gives way to the 98 going into turn 1.
I think either the 11 may have tapped the ball a little bit, or he just decided that it just wasn't worth fighting. Again, right now, with about 20, 30 laps left, some of these drivers may be thinking, hey, I need these tires to get all the way to the end. The car doesn't feel that great right now. Let him burn off his stuff. I'll get back to him when he finally burns it off.
I'm trying to work the calculators here, trying to figure out who would be our points that are going into Atlanta, because only 2 drivers that finished in the top 10 last week at Daytona are in the field here tonight. Only 5 of them in the top 15 in points. A lot of drivers that were at Daytona last week, including race winner Sean Butler, not in the field here tonight. So there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking in the points when we get to Atlanta next week. Right now, if I were just kind of going off of my rather unreliable mathematics, I would think that it was going to be the 213 of Herman Hart, because he was 7th last week at Daytona, running in 7th place right now. So with back-to-back finishes up there inside of the top 10, looks like he could very well be the race leader. He actually finished much better than our 2 race leaders, Bransky and Furness, as well.
Yeah, I think he hasn't been having a great day, so that'd be a nice little momentum boost for him. But still, the 51 is attacking Bransky, and it looks like he might make it stick this time off the corner.
Tried to get to the left rear quarter pail, not quite able to. Had it right down there on that yellow line, as Bransky again with some connection problems, and that you got to wonder if that's going to affect him as well. Now, you can explain this a little bit further on the iRacing side here, Matt, but I do know that over on the NR 2003 sim, if the car disappears for a while, it actually does not cover that section of track for the amount of time that it has disappeared. I don't know if that's something that could affect the 03 if he disappears for a long period of time or not.
Really, the biggest issue for the 03 would be really kind of blinking across the line. Because, again, it isn't like the NR 2003 sim, that if they do disappear, they will appear back in the same position as if they were racing on their own. So again, as they blink out, the driver who is having those issues is still racing the track on their own. Now, the biggest issue is if they blink and they cross the line, because that lap will not be counted and will automatically put them 1 lap down.
20 laps to go, 19 at the line, riding on board with John Furness, looking ahead to race leader Jacob Bransky. This is more than likely going to be the battle for the win. The question is, does it take place in the final 5 laps of this race or the upcoming 5 laps?
Again, this is, again, kind of homing it back home, this is one of the most entertaining and frustrating things for a driver, which is, you're thinking, the guy in front of you has skill. I mean, he is holding you off, and you see it there. You know that if you just get a little bit of a bumper inside of him like he is right now, you can take off. But the problem is getting back on the gas and getting that grip. You just don't have it. And I swear, it never fails. The guy who's in front of you always has more grip.
Tried to get that power down, could not do it. We even saw Jacob Bransky able to get back to the throttle there before they got to the center of the corner. So definitely had the advantage off of turn 2. And I was a little bit surprised as well, and I don't necessarily know if we see the 51 get back to the inside, if Bransky will utilize this or not. But a lot of times when a driver tries to make a pass to the inside at Phoenix, that car on the top side will try and pinch them down to take away their opportunity to get back to the throttle even more.
That's a big risk here at the moment. We saw how much, especially when Furness got that little bit of a hole to poke his nose in, we saw him like that, and he really hammered the gas, and he was sliding through the corner. I wonder if he does start pinching him down. Here's the thing, is the 51 even going to be able to stay down there? Is it going to push up a little bit and hit him?
Gonna be the big question as we close in on 15 laps to go. Again, driving it deep into turn one is that mellow yellow Chevrolet Impala. Tries to widen the corner off of turn two, and that actually didn't lose him nearly as much ground as he has the last couple of laps, so might have found something there with a slightly wider exit.
Yeah, and I think he may be kind of banking on Jacob, possibly have burned up his stuff a little bit trying to hold him back, but remember, Bear's about 15 laps left, 14 laps this time. You've got to kind of start counting your hands of, all right, when does it finally go time, and when can I finally push, and is that guy behind me pushing? Do I need to start?
You're Jacob Furness. You're able to see what Bransky's doing going into the corner, how soon he's getting back to the throttle. You're able to kind of compare yourself to him. If you're Bransky, though, how much of a distraction is it having that 51 in your rearview mirror? Because you got to keep an eye on the moves he's making, but at the same time, you can't take your eye off of where your braking zones are.
That's the thing. It's just so much of a thing to psych you out. As you see the 51 going, launch it in, almost sliding into him. Still side by side. He actually may have it out here out the exit.
Back alongside, they take it down midway down the back straightaway, still side by side. Slight advantage for the 0-3. Let's see who gets back to the throttle here into 3. Ooh, way up the track. No grip up there for Bransky. Furness, I think, is going to clear him off of turn 4. Back to the point. No, it's going to be Bransky battling back at the top.
I think what happened is Bransky tried to overdrive the entry of 3 and kind of sacrificed the exit of 4, but the problem is, while he did kind of gang a little bit on the entry of 3, he really sacrificed 4 being that high off the track.
You see Furness keeping it down the inside, not going up there to take away that line, leaving the top side open for Bransky to get that run back off the corner. That time, though, I think he went a little too high, really slid the right front, and now it's going to be Furness back to the point, coming to 12 laps to go. Does Bransky have anything left in the tank to get back to the 51, or is this race over now?
I mean, look at how the 03 is driving. He burnt off those rear tires, but right now he's trying to quickly cool them down so he can try to make another run at the 51. But I have to say the same for the 51, where he has been sliding through turn 1 and turn 3 a lot in these last few laps.
It really seems like it's going to come down to execution in these corners rather than how much grip you've got underneath you, because I think you're right. I think both these drivers don't have any grip underneath them through the entrance of the corner, especially you saw the 51 with that slight wiggle off of turn 4, continuing to tick away laps. The one thing that John Furness wants to do now is come off of turn 4, see that white flag in the air, because the last thing that he wants to see is a caution come out, he and Bransky be back on equal footing with fresh tires in a late race restart.
Again, I really say if that were to happen, Bransky would have the advantage there, just because, I mean, he has been so strong on new tires, and really the 51 just has not had best of luck on these restarts.
Great job by everybody, though, sticking out this race. It's going to be a long, grueling race with this type of race car at a very difficult track in Phoenix. Stephen Black right now in that 3rd position, about 5-6 car lengths back to Christopher Heller, and we may have a battle for the 4th position in the closing stages, as looked like Gohagan was starting to close in on him for 4th place. Actually lost a little bit of ground on that last lap, but currently holding down the 5th position. Brandon Barkuski, that car pretty wounded as he's falling back into the clutches of Herman Hart, but right now last car on the lead lap in 6th place. Hart currently in 7th, and Andrew Jones is about 3 laps away from moving by Aiden Dupont to finish this race officially in the 8th position. Less than 10 to go, about 4 car lengths from Furness back to Bransky.
And you really can tell that Bransky's trying, make sure he doesn't make any mistakes, but he's really trying to hope that Furness is going to make a little bit of a mistake, or he possibly burn up his tires a little bit. Bransky is trying everything he can to really cool these things down, make another attempt to get back at the 51.
Looking at the lap times right now, slight advantage for the 51 car. The last time by, he was about 5/100ths of a second faster. Now, that may not seem like much, but when you consider how much off the throttle time these drivers have in the corners, that actually is a huge advantage for the race leader.
So they're just still looking here. I think it may be too little too late. I don't know if Bransky can get back to him. But, I mean, just kind of look back through the field here a little bit. Stephen Black obviously made that run to 3rd. Heller still holding on to 4th. And Gohagan, I mean, he is running a strong 5th. Not exactly what he wanted for today, but, I mean, listen, it's better than a wrecked race car.
And all 5 of the drivers running in the top 5 started inside the top 5. Going to be slight difference in where they finish. Furness is right now looking like he will be the only driver, actually correction, he'd be one of 2 drivers that will finish where he started. Christopher Heller started from 4th place, Bransky was 3rd, Black was 5th, and Gohagen was on the outside of the front row. Take a look up ahead there, Matt.
Oh,
Whoa!
man, Bransky slid so much through that corner.
Well, what I was just about to bring up with him having that slide may actually be a non-factor now, because I was noticing that about maybe 3/4 of a straightaway ahead of the 51 are a couple of lap machines, and that's the 25 and the 213. I don't know if he'll necessarily catch him here in the next 5 laps, but that was certainly going to be a possibility of maybe closing up the battle for the win, but that slide off turn 2, that may have just sealed the deal.
I would never say never, and again, not saying that the 2 lap cars are going to hold them up, but again, just having 2 lap cars there, that changes your mentality, changes your entry, changes your mindset of how in the world am I going to pass these guys and what are I going to do, where it does open that window of opportunity for Bransky to get back to him.
Notice there, John Furness running really high through 3 and 4. A little bit unusual to be seeing him run that high up the racetrack unless he's battling somebody. And that might have lost him a tiny bit of ground to Bransky. Still the gap about 1.4 seconds between those two, and he's only got about 3.5 laps before he's able to head for home and claim his first win of the season.
Man, it's still tight. And you got to look, I mean, obviously with the 213 of Herman Hart pulling off the track, really it only is Brandon Barkuski really is the only obstacle here. And I think with it just being 1 lap car, it's not going to weigh too heavily on the mind of Furness. So I think it's almost a sealed shut deal unless a caution comes out or something beyond the... Oh, it looks like Bransky got a little bit of the wall there.
Trying to push for all it's worth there. He knows that the worst he probably will finish will be 2nd place. He's trying to get every last little bit out of that race car in case Furness makes a mistake, that he can go by for the race win. But 2 laps to go for our Poles that are looking to go coast to coast. I was actually looking, and fuel's not going to be a concern, but I noticed the fact that they're on their 54th lap. Around this point, midway through this race, was when we ended up seeing drivers on that stint coming to pit lane for fuel and tires. So that would have been very interesting, depending on if we had had maybe an extra 10 laps here on this final run to the checkers.
Here's the big thing I'm kind of realizing, and I think Bransky probably needs to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath and realize this, where, I mean, listen, right now, with you being about 2 seconds back, unless something happens, this win is effectively gone. But I understand you want to keep pushing, but you remember, at the end of the day, this is a 2nd place finish that you could possibly stand to lose here. Now, I'd say it's okay, just kind of take a deep breath, get him next time. You see 51 in the wall?
Oh, no! Hard hit there for Furness into the wall. Here comes Bransky in the 0-3. Does Furness have enough car to get back to the start-finish line? Looks like he will, but that could have ended catastrophically for the 51 car, as he will win here tonight in the Vroom Apparel 150, and that's why you said never say never, Matt.
Well, I stand corrected, but it looks like the 51 tried to attack the yellow rumble strips a little bit, didn't even hit it, and ended up pulling away and got the back end just a little bit loose, overcorrected, slammed into the wall, and that almost lost in the race.
Wow, who would have thought that the final half lap would have maybe been the biggest difference maker in this entire race? Very fortunate he kept that thing straight. I mean, that thing almost looked like it was going to spin around on him, which would have allowed Bransky to steal this win away.
Ay.
That's replay worthy. Let's go back and see just how close he was of possibly choking away the 2nd race of the season.
Ay. That's enough to make anyone's blood pressure raise a little bit. Like, man, like, I know, like, we had this race won, and that is just like kind of the nightmare scenario in your mind of, man, we could have lost this, and that would have been a cheek clincher if we did.
I said at the top of the broadcast, that rumble strip's not really down there for use. It's there as a guideline.
Well, he didn't even hit the rumble
strip.
He didn't even hit the rumble strip. It was pretty much, he went down there, and it's almost as soon as he went down to kind of get to the rumble strips, when he went down and banked off the corner, it's almost like the right rear just stepped out, and he went back to correct it. But the problem is, when he corrected, he overcorrected a little bit and ended up fighting it back into the wall. It was a perfect bounce that he hit it straight on the side and not hit it on the right rear and slammed in the head first.
I'm not necessarily certain if there's anything in this, but riding on board with him, He was counter steering a ton off of turn 2. I think he was out of shape even off the second corner. And by the time that thing was snapping around through the center of the back straight, I think he was in the process of trying to gather that thing back up.
I have no idea why he was pushing that hard. I mean, again, you had a 2-second lead. And again, man.
Certainly made things exciting here in the closing stages, no doubt about that. But John Furness is indeed going to close out the deal and go pole to win here tonight, capturing his first win of the season in the High Horsepower Racing League. Bransky's going to bring it home in second, Stephen Black in third, and the rest of the top five are going to be Christopher Heller and Hunter Gohagen. Last car to finish on the lead lap, he was just ahead of the race leader at the time, Brandon Barkuski. Last drivers to finish, Herman Hart in 7th and Andrew Jones in 8th. The rest of these drivers finished in the garage area. Max point stays, though, for the 51, the 03, and the 98. Going to be very interesting to see with the fact that we had about half, a little bit less than half of the drivers take the green flag tonight than took the green flag at Daytona, just how much the points are going to be shaken up heading into Atlanta next week.
You got to remember, this is kind of a tale of two stories here where, I mean, Furness is like, man, I kind of didn't mess it up on the final lap and he came out and won it. But you remember Bransky, who, again, if he didn't have that little bit of a slide in the one and lost all that time, I mean, he would have been there. He would have been right there to take advantage of that. And that's what you were talking about.
That's a good call. He was, what, about maybe 4 car lengths off the back bumper of
Got
Furness,
2 seconds.
3 and 4. So, yeah, no doubt that if he had not had that slip up off of turn 2 earlier, he more than likely would have easily made it around.
Then again, it could be argued that if he was closer, he probably would have been in it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. We can only speculate at this point. We can only just go off of the results, and the results show the 51 at the top of the board. So congratulations there to John Furness on winning here tonight at Phoenix. A crazy one here this evening. Long green flag runs, a couple of cautions, one of them right in the middle of green flag pit stops, which kind of shuffled up the tire strategy, and that long green flag run to the end. It's interesting too, because as I mentioned, these drivers, when they crossed the start finish line for the checkers, they were on their 55th lap on their tires. That was around when we saw drivers coming to pit road for green flag pit stops, so they had maybe threads underneath them there in terms of those good years in the closing stages.
I'm just seeing some commentary from Stephen Black here in the general chat. Let's go ahead and pull up Stephen here and see if we can get a word with him.
Hey, Stephen, Matt, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you.
Man, what a crazy, slippy, slidey race we saw here tonight at Phoenix. Man, everybody was wheeling it here in the desert. What was it like from your perspective trying to get these COTs around this racetrack?
Oh, I had a blast. I love the low downforce and the high horsepower, so it was really fun for me. I need new arms after this one, though. 150 laps was something else.
So I've got to ask, since it was kind of a big factor in that last little stint, with you battling the 48 and kind of getting separated from that main pack, do you think if you didn't have that, you would have been maybe in a contention for second, first?
I don't think so. John and Jacob were really fast, and I couldn't really figure out where to make the passes at when I needed to, and it really did hurt me. But I'll take a third any day of the week. It's a really tough car to drive, and just being able to get a top 5 in general made me happy. So, but yeah, John and Jacob were on a whole nother level tonight.
Now, one thing that we did see, Steven, was you were one of the first drivers to kind of migrate a little bit higher up on the racetrack. We really didn't see that second groove come into play until about the second half of this race, but you actually migrated up there about 15, 20 laps in. What were you able to find up there? Because we saw it gained you a little bit of ground.
Yeah, I was able to drive it in a little bit harder, just a little bit, and kind of get a little bit of momentum coming out too, and keep the momentum up. And it was really hard to pass down low, so I figured I'd try up high. And these cars are just so loose; it's really hard to get side by side with somebody and contend to make a pass clean. And you kind of have to wait for people to make a mistake, as opposed to just sending it in. Of course, I think I was sending it in for a pretty good majority of the beginning of the race, and then I kind of settled in. So just searching for grip. No matter where you have to run, it's a big deal with these things. So.
A great points day after the hardships of Daytona last week. How important is this for momentum and confidence going into Atlanta next week?
Atlanta is one of my favorite tracks, no matter what car you bring to it. So I'll be putting in some practice laps, and hopefully we'll be running in contention there as well.
Steven, congratulations on a great performance here tonight. Started in the top five, finishing the top five up there in the third position on the podium. We're now going to give the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout outs.
Yep. Shout out to my graphic design company, Skylord Graphics. I've done a couple of cars for guys here, as well as in other leagues. Shout out to you guys for broadcasting tonight, and shout out to everyone out there watching.
Stephen Black, P3 here tonight at Phoenix International Raceway. Congratulations, Stephen, and best of luck next week at the High Banks of Atlanta.
Yep, thank you.
Let's see if we can dial up our second place finisher here tonight, Jacob Bransky. Hey, Jacob, Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep.
Man, we saw a dogfight for that race win there in the final 25 laps of this race. Saw the 51 get out of shape there on the back straightaway heading into turn 3. What was going through your mind there? Do you think you could have gotten him?
So yeah, I was just riding behind him, hoping obviously that something would happen to him to allow me to get the win there. And when he did that, I kind of like freaked out. I was like, "What just happened?" Because I didn't even realize what happened. I just saw him in the wall. But lucky enough for him that he was able to recover from that, obviously. And I just had nothing left in the car to be able to catch him at the end there. So yeah, just a good win to him.
So I got to know your reactions here. I mean, we saw you do that undercut about lap 50, lap 60, kind of taking those four tires, pitting a lap earlier than both the 7 and way earlier than the 51. I mean, when that caution flew, did your kind of heart sink and like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be that competitive?
Oh yeah, when the second caution flew, we were kind of, me and my teammate Hunter were just kind of like deciding what I should do, because I literally just pit, and now I have like 2 old lap tires, so I just decided to come in so I'd be able to match my tires with everybody else, and then just hoping we'd have enough sets at the end of the race to be able to be competitive still.
Jacob, I posed this question to Matt when we were seeing you trying to keep the 51 in your rearview mirror. How difficult is it at a track like Phoenix where there's those heavy braking zones, especially into turn 1, to keep one eye in the rearview mirror, see which line the 51's trying to make a move, but all the time make sure that you hit your own braking zones and don't overdrive the entry to the corner?
Yeah, it's really hard to not overdrive these cars, obviously. It's just, you have to brake a lot harder than you do in the newer cars, so it's just basically just try and focus on what's in front of you and make sure to like hit your marks. And I was just kind of doing my race, then I was also trying to hold him off on like the outside, because I felt like the outside was a little bit stronger at the end, but I think he was definitely just saving his tires a little bit more than me early in the run.
So Jacob, obviously the slick and weathered surface here at Phoenix today. Next week we go to the oldest track surface on the NASCAR circuit at Atlanta. Is there anything from how the car handled here today with this track surface that you can then take away and apply to Atlanta next week?
Yeah, for sure. We're just definitely expecting to get, loose again. I'm thinking for Atlanta, just try and, probably save tires a little bit more in the early run, because I was definitely in this race just kind of going to the wheels fall off basically kind of mentality. So I think at Atlanta, maybe just try and take it easier, because I think it's definitely going to get even more hotter than it was tonight.
We saw a lot of drivers here tonight that struggled last week at Daytona get good points days here tonight, yourself included. So congratulations on that. Looking forward to seeing where this positions you points-wise heading into Atlanta. But for now, we'll turn the mic over to you to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
All right, yeah, I just want to thank my sponsors, Pib Extra and Chevrolet Impala, and then the thanks to Vroom for putting on a sponsor for the race tonight, and then just thanks to you guys and everyone a part of the league, and yeah.
Jacob Bransky, your second place finisher here tonight at Phoenix Raceway in the Vroom Apparel 150. Congratulations, Jacob. Best of luck next week at the High Banks of Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yep, thanks guys.
Trying to see if we could be able to talk with tonight's race winner, John Furness. So far have not seen him appear. So we're going to just give him a couple more minutes, see if we can be able to talk with him, as it wasn't an easy road for him. He was out in front for the first half of this race and then kind of fell back into traffic, fell as far back as 4th place, had to slowly work his way up, eventually got around Bransky for the top position, and then, as we saw, nearly threw it all away there in the final couple of corners.
To be honest, I'm wondering if he was in the care center after that hit.
Might have taken that mandatory ambulance ride after doing his burnouts. But I mean, nonetheless, I mean, here tonight, drivers had to kind of strategize for 2 different races. He ended up having the long green flag run at the beginning, then a couple of cautions the midway point. So it kind of probably left drivers guessing, do I strategize for green flag to the end, or do I kind of prepare for potential short spurts, take advantage of the track position while I can?
That's the main thing, where we saw how potent those restarts were and how vital it was to really pass all the cars you can and then finally make your stand. I think it was more or less, hey, try to attack on these restarts and then just really work at making sure you held those positions. Because we even saw when guys who obviously were a little bit slower had someone faster on their bumper, they were holding their ground. They were willingly holding them up, and it was working.
Definitely was. Well, looks like we unfortunately are not going to be able to talk with tonight's race winner, John Furness, but congratulations to him on his first win of the season. We'll see if the max points might move him maybe up to the top of the standings. The points are still awfully close after Daytona. If not, going to be interesting to see where he's placed heading into Atlanta next week. Once again, got to thank tonight's sponsor, Vroom Apparel at vroomapparel.com. One last reminder to folks as well to head over there and check out the limited edition clothing drop. Use the code VROOM25, VROOM 25 at checkout for 25% off of your order. And also thanks to High Horsepower Racing League for giving us the opportunity to be able to broadcast this series. Great racing here tonight in the desert, and looking forward to Atlanta next week. Matt, it's been a blast. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
This just reminded me how much I miss these old COT cars.
Absolutely. Thanks to all you that tuned in tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our broadcast. Be sure to join us next Monday night, as we're going to be bringing you coverage from the Atlanta Motor Speedway, 3rd race of the season here for the High Horsepower Racing League. From Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.